Hey guys, what's up, and welcome back to this week's episode of That Scale RC Show. We are on episode 54. I'm your host, Adam, alongside with Jay, and it will just be us tonight. Travis had to actually go pick up our intern and give him a ride back to his house, so he is not going to be joining us. So this episode will probably just, crash and burn. We're lost without Travis.
We're going to have
This
technical
organized.
difficulties. We're not going to be organized. Yeah, it's going to be a mess.
So bear with us.
Travis is the glue that binds us. Episode 54. Man.
Yeah, I know.
No guests this week, but that's okay. We have a ton of stuff to talk about.
Yes, ton of stuff to talk about. It was just a holiday weekend, so let's start out with that. What did you do this weekend?
I was out at Die Hard Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and Friday we kind of were making some last minute preparations for the course. I guess I need to back up. It was membership appreciation weekend, so at Die Hard you can buy a membership and have a gate key, and you can just be, in and out of there, come and go as you please for the year. So we had a membership appreciation weekend, and had to get the trail kind of ready and stuff, fix a couple of things, and then we went through and hung up scale banners and got some buildings put out and made some little gravel roads and a little farm, and it was super fun. So we did that stuff on Friday. Saturday was just kind of like a free day, just drive on the course, enjoy yourself, and then there was music and fireworks that night. And then Sunday we did a trying to think of a good name for it. Basically, what we did, the first event we did on Sunday for the scale stuff, was we did a scavenger hunt for kids, but you use your phone and kind of take picture proof of the items that you have, that you find that's on the list. And so there was different little things hidden around the course, and the kids would get a picture of their car next to it or object and stuff. And one of the things you had to do was help a friend, kind of the whole Recon G6 and Axial Fest thing, lending a hand to somebody who's stuck or whatever. So helping a friend was one of them. And then the owners of the place, Brett and Brenda, they have a dog named Sonny, and he is practically the community dog. He's just great. He just wanders from person to person saying hi and hanging out and getting loved and stuff. And they found a little plastic 10th scale dog, and it looks almost just like Sonny. And so one of the items was, go find Sonny. He ran off on the course somewhere. And then for the adults, we did this kind of follow the leader game, which was pretty cool. So there was 10 rigs, and you have to take as close as humanly possible, take the line of the person who's leader. So we did youngest, oldest is our starting order. And when that person rolls over or gets stuck and they can't get out or whatever, that's it. They get bumped to the back of the line. Then there's a new leader that takes over. So everybody follows that person. And so we probably had the lead change a good 20 times. And I've got a ton of video from it that I need to edit. But it was awesome. Just super, super good time. So follow the leader was a pretty big hit. It was that, or just do kind of an impromptu scale comp. And everybody was kind of more interested in just going and having fun on the course. And so we did that. And then at the very end of the follow the leader run, we did barrel racing, because I don't know if you've ever seen an off-road, but they do Jeep barrel racing, and dudes full on build Jeeps specifically for that. And so we did that, and that was super, super fun. We bought a bunch of 10th scale oil drums off of Amazon, so we had, these barrels set up on the course, and then, there was a out of bounds line and stuff, and so you had to complete this pattern in a certain amount of time. So it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. So we had a great time, camped out there the whole weekend, and there was an off-road race there on the turf track and just a bunch of stuff going on. Saturday night they did nighttime drag racing, which was awesome. Very, very cool. So yeah, it was a weekend full of all kinds of fun.
Nice. Sounds like a action-packed weekend.
Dude, it was rad. It was like a mini Axial Fest. It was a really good time. I got to drive
Nice.
a mega truck, like a mega mud truck. That was a very cool experience. One of our team guys from SOR, Glenn Taylor, has a SMT10 that's converted to a mega truck with like the big gnarly J Concepts tractor style tires and a Chevy C10 body on it. And the thing is just absolutely wicked. I mean, it just throws this huge rooster tail of mud, from all four tires. And I mean, the thing's just ungodly fast to the point where it almost like paddles itself across water. It was pretty rad. It was hard to drive that and not just be like, dang, dude, I really need to build one of these. This is pretty darn cool.
Nice.
Yeah, lots of fun.
Awesome. Sorry. So does that mean you're gonna build a mega mud truck next?
Probably not. I mean, I want to, but I don't know. There's just so many other things I got to do right now, and I'm so busy with stuff with work, and like I still need to finish some stuff that we have for the DR10. I mean, it's just been crazy. So, yep, very very busy.
Yeah, I hear that.
You get a chance to get out and do some driving?
Oh, I did a little driving. We did a spur of the moment because it was the fourth, and typically on a normal, not so hectic, chaotic year, we usually go up to Auburn because at the area where Michelle's parents' place is up there, Lake of the Pines, they have like a full-on like community like Fourth of July celebration. They got like kind of like a mini carnival kind of thing. Like there's kids can go do these little like beanbag toss and like what I call the equivalent of kids beer pong, and stuff like that, like little games. And you can also buy your food there. You can get a burger or a hot dog, and they obviously for the adults sell beer and all that stuff. So typically it's kind of cool. You get to hang out. They got like a little like vendor area, and like there's like little arts and crafts and stuff. But that's typically what happens. This year, due to everything, there was nothing. So we were kind of like on the fence, like if we were going to go anywhere. So we ended up at the last minute deciding, you know what, let's just get out of town, and we'll just go up to Auburn anyways. But just we won't be really doing anything because there's nothing really going on. So anyways, we went up there, and I decided to bring my Capra with me because the last time I was up there working, I brought the Capra, but I was so busy with everything that I never got to play with it. So I was like, all right. So the one day, I forget what Michelle was doing, so I said, I'm going to go play with the Capra. I am super impressed. I know it's like sounding like I'm super late to the party, but I built this rig, never really drove it, and now that it's like all complete, I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. Yeah, it's impressive how well that rig crawls. Like I've always said, like appearance wise and kind of like the way it's set up, you could tell it's a performance, based rig. And that's definitely what it is. I mean, that thing, I was putting it through lines that I would never attempt with any of my scale crawlers.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty cool. Like there's this like so behind the house up there, there's like a creek that runs through, and obviously from like I want to say usually middle to the beginning of June all the way till about November, it's dry. So there's like a tree, and Michelle's dad actually didn't want the tree to erode and like fall in. So what he did was he built like this little like he tried to make it semi natural. He used a bunch of it's almost like hard, I don't know what to call it. It's like gardening stone. That's what I call it. I always see it in planter boxes and stuff. It's like that half round, and like you can stack them together and make like a barrier. But anyways, he did that, and then it's got some rock next to it, and so there's a lot of like you can see it and you're looking at it. It's like a lot of like comp lines because they're like big spaces and like off camber stuff, and there's this one area that's like super tight, and it's just like like to make that turning radius is like almost impossible. So I was like, you know what, I'm just playing around with it, just having fun. Let's just see what I can do. And I mean, I was playing around with the rear steer because that's another thing that I had to get used to because that's my first rig with rear steer. And the way that it's set up on my Spectrum remote is it's not like it's not like you have a button that you can just control, like you push it forward and it'll steer to the right, and you pull it back, it'll steer to the left. It's almost like setting it up in different like profiles. It's like it's the only way I found Spectrum to do the four wheel steer. They actually tell you in the manual, if you're going to do four wheel steer, you have to do it this way. It's almost like it is mixing, but it's almost like setting up a profile. So like the first setting, like when you push the whatever channel it is that you pick, when you push it once up, it'll go into like what I call the barrel setting, meaning that like if your front tires turn to the right, your rear tires turn to the left. So you could like, and vice versa. So they always turn the opposite, so you could do like a super tight turn. Then there's the next profile, which I call the crab walk, because when you turn the front to the right, the rear will also turn to the right, so you can kind of like, and vice versa. If you turn to the left, the rear will turn to the left, so that way it's like crab walking. Then the final profile is the one I call the forklift, where it's just the rear axle steering, the front stays straight. And so like learning which one setting you were in, and learning how to use that, because really the only way it works is as you're turning the wheel, that's what controls the rear at the same time. That's why it's mixing, so both of them happen at the same time. So you have to kind of like know, like, okay, I need to kind of like go into this profile, like the crab walk, so that way I can kind of like scoot myself over, then quickly click it back, so I just have regular steering. Like, you just have to know what you're doing. So it was kind of fun playing around with that, and just getting it to go over certain lines was just pretty impressive. And the other thing I liked about it is I typically do this thing, I call it the wall test, because that kind of tells me how balanced the rig is, or top heavy, or etc. And typically what I'll do is I'll go to angle to a wall, and I'll get the tire going up it, then I'll turn into the wall, and I'll keep driving up until it wants to start to teeter back, and I see how far up I can go before it teeters, or like the bumper drags or whatever. With the Capra, I can almost go completely vertical. I think the rear tires are like a half inch away from the wall by the time it wants to roll backwards like a roly poly.
Nice.
So like it's pretty impressive. Like I was like, I'm like I said, I'm pretty impressed with this rig. But I mean, the only thing I'd like to do now is find um, a slightly bigger battery as far as size, like capacity, but keep the footprint the same. I have a 1300 milliamp hour battery, and if I jump up to the next one, it's too big to fit in that tray. But I remember watching a video on YouTube where the guys at Horizon went over the various batteries that they got to fit. So one of them was actually super tiny, but it was like a 3000 milliamp hour. So I was like, if I could find something like that, I can get more than 45 minutes out of this run.
Oh yeah. No, there's a what was I using? I think it was a Reedy or ProTech 3 cell shorty in my Capra, and it fit pretty good, and it was a 3000 milliamp, and it actually lasted a pretty long time.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out, because with I think it's a 13. I could be wrong. That 13 could be what I have for the Yeti Junior, the Can-Am. That might just be like 1050. It might be a super small battery, but I just remember it was when I went to not Hobbytown, Fast Track up in Roseville or Rockland. They said it was a drone battery, so it's like meant for flying. So that's why it's so compact. But being the fact that I'm running two servos, I got a brushless system in there, and it was hot out, so the fan actually kicked on. So I'm assuming that just overloads that battery, so you get like about a half hour, 45 minutes before it's done.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Now, what motor did you put in that?
So I went with the 2100 kV Puller Pro.
Oh, check you out. I ended up doing a 45 turn in the one that we had, because I started out with a 35, and the thing was just like geared really, really tall, just because of the portals and stuff. Like it was just entirely too fast. So I went with a 45 turn, and I think I geared it down to like an 11 tooth pinion, and I had it running on a 3 cell, and that was pretty good. It was still a little too fast, but it actually could like crawl slower and not get hot or anything. Like I've seen some dudes are smoking motors on them, and it's like, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it is kind of a little, I don't know, the gear ratios are a little tall for, you know, a low turn motor like that.
Yeah, see that, and that's what's pretty interesting, and that is one thing I do got to say I was still kind of shocked about was, um, I knew that the Capra was pretty like top end, like close to a 1-to-1 kind of situation. So I was like, I'm gonna go down in motor size because originally I was gonna run a 27, but I was at JJ Customs and a guy was running his, and I couldn't believe like that thing was like, I mean, he can almost get the thing to do a wheelie, and I'm like going, dude, what are you running that thing like a 3300 or something? And he goes, no, it's a 27. I go, that's a 27. I said, oh, I better drop down to like a 21. I said, because that's freaking like that's insane.
Yeah, they're just really fast right out of the box. I think part of it's because of the way the portals are geared, and then also, I mean, they don't have, normally in a regular transmission, you got like your pinion gear and your spur gear, and like the spur gear is normally very, very big in diameter compared to your pinion, and that compact transmission they have, that spur gear is not super big, so I think a lot of the reduction they're trying to do is at the portals, but it still might not be quite enough.
Yeah, it's not quite enough. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I actually did drop the pinion on that to like an 11, but I could be wrong. I might be running the stock one. It it's been a minute since I put that one together, so I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head what that has because I do know with the SCX 10.3, I know right out of the gate I dropped the pinion down to an 11 mainly because the 11 was the lowest, no, to a 12 because that was the lowest I had on hand. So I think the lowest you can go in the 10.3 because it's the preset settings.
Oh yeah.
Um, the 11 is the lowest. In the Capra, I believe it's still you can adjust it yourself. Like you can,
I
so I don't.
think so. I think it slides if I remember right. It's been a while. Like I haven't had that thing for probably 7 or 8 months.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think it came with a 13 and I went to an 11, something like that. I mean, it was just a small step down, but it helped. I mean, it was still a little fast even with the 45 turn, but it wasn't getting super hot or anything with the 11, so that worked out pretty good.
Yeah, mine only was getting like, well, the motor wasn't really getting hot. I think the ESC was getting hot because it was like 103 degrees out.
Yeah, I could see that. Dude, that's terrible. That,
So,
that's way too hot. What were you doing outside?
well, playing with my RC car.
I think it was like low to mid 70s here. It was about as picture perfect as you could possibly hope for.
Yeah, no, it was kind of hot. I mean, but it was kind of cool because, like I said, it was just me and Michelle. So we went grocery shopping, picked up some burgers, pulled out the grill, just grilled some burgers for the two of us, hung out, and that was pretty much it. On the way back home, Sunday, I stopped by Gene Boyd's house and picked up my UC Fab um, cage for the deadbolt.
Those are cool looking. That's a sharp looking
And
cage for those.
and he also hooked it up with the front and rear bumper.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, yeah. So I think I'm gonna start pimping out the deadbolt a little bit. So that actually might become my like designated like Auburn rig. Like leave it up there so that way like even if I'm up working and I forget, I'll be like, oh look, I got something to play with. So
That's a good idea.
yeah, so now I'm just trying to come up with colors for it because the cool thing is I picked them up raw, so there's no color on anything, and they were just fresh out of the bead blaster. So I'm like, should I paint them? Should I Cerakote them? I'm like, you know, trying to figure out which direction I should go.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because the deadbolt's what, camo?
Yeah, so you did like a black, gray, and white camo kind of thing with it. That's another rig would be fun. Like, that's what I got to do one of these days. I got to sit down. I think the black and gold JK, I think the deadbolt, I think both those need a fresh, like a updated wrap with the new logo.
Oh yeah, that's no problem. I don't know why, but man, the deadbolt, I've always had a soft spot for that body. That's always been one of my favorite ones, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it's kind of Bronco-ish or not. Like I like the
That's
G6 Jeep, but the deadbolt's just really cool.
that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say I think you're that way because it's Bronco-ish and you're kind of like a Ford guy. So I think that's where it comes from.
Could be. Honestly, I'm an everything guy. I just kind of like came to that conclusion this last weekend because like I've had so many like different brands of real cars, and then when it comes to RC bodies and stuff, like I've had stuff all over the board, and like I'll get on like a Jeep kick or stuff like that. But like right now I'm on a Toyota kick, so it just kind of varies. But I think if I had to describe myself, I would say I'm pretty much a fan of like anything automotive. So
Yeah.
they're all cool.
So, and then I guess the other thing was pretty cool when I got back to Redwood City. There was a package waiting for me. I had purchased an AX10 Scorpion from Brandon Catton, so shout out to Brandon. I was actually shocked. I literally like I don't go on Facebook all the time, and like the first thing I do, I don't normally like go on like Marketplace or something. It just happened to have popped up in the feed, and I was like, and I saw it, and I looked at the time, and it said it was posted 6 hours ago. So I just texted him. I said, "Hey, Brandon," I said, "Is this thing still for sale?" And he goes, "Yep." He goes, "It's still for sale." So I go, "All right." I said, "I'm interested." And he goes, "Really?" And I go, "Yep." Put it down as sold. Send me your PayPal.
Rad. No, it
So
was new in the
yeah,
box, right? You said that, I think.
no, that
Oh,
one
okay.
wasn't new in the box. It had like one or two runs, and the reason why I wanted it, honestly, is because this shows you how bad my RC addiction is. So I have that that AX10 Scorpion almost ready to run, the orange one
Mm-hmm.
that's in the box. So basically, the almost ready to run was a upgraded one. So it came with metal links. Not sure about the knuckles, but I know it came with the aluminum links. Um, I don't. I think the upgraded chassis, a couple other items that were pretty like almost like getting a kit version, but if somebody was to assemble the kit for you, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that one was new in box, never been opened. So
Wow.
so I like don't have the heart to take it out and like use it just because it's never been opened. So I'm like, all right, that one's gonna stay in its box. So I was like, I gotta get one so I can use it
Yeah.
but keep it, in the box. Or I mean, keep that one in the box and still be able to use an AX10 Scorpion.
Right.
So when he put that up for sale, I said, "All right, I got to get it." So,
Well, it's pretty cool. I mean, you own a piece of history now, which is awesome. You got one to sit there and save for all of posterity, and then you've got one that you can actually go enjoy and have some fun with.
yeah, and the cool thing about it was what really kind of like put the fire like under me to do it was last year before Axial Fest, Randall Davis from Axial put out a post that he was doing like that he came across some parts and he did like an old like basically a modern looking like OG vehicle, which was his AX10 Scorpion, and I was like, dude, that thing's so sharp looking. Like I was like, oh, I said I need to find one. Like I need to find one that I could use so I can like, do something with it. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, and not only that, there's another part of history that's on there, and it's a shame that they already got like tire rot because it's like, oh, it'd be so cool to run them. But those things came with the original Proline Rock Tamer. Were they Rock Tamers? Or rock crushers or something like that. I'd have to go look at it, but they're Proline tires, which are I know are clearly discontinued, but yeah, they're a little on the dry rot side.
Wow, that sucks. Might be able to find
So,
some somewhere, but somebody's going to want a premium for them.
yeah, but the other thing that I thought was pretty funny was or pretty cool, is the fact that it's so original. It's got the original before they went to Tactic. It was the original Axial branded servo, the AX SO1 or something like that, and the speed control is an AE1.
Oh wow.
I was like, that's what I said. I was like, man, I said this thing's super original. So, so no, that was pretty cool.
Did you get the radio with like the little door over the controls and stuff?
No,
Oh.
that's the only thing it didn't come with was the radio.
I still see some of those floating around every once in a while, or somebody'll have
So,
one. What's
yeah,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just gonna say it's no big deal. I could just get a Spectrum receiver and just use one of my Spectrum remotes. It's no big deal.
You know, didn't Axial tried to kind of revive the AX10 for a little bit, didn't they, with the orange AX10 deadbolt that they offered for a brief period of time?
I think what they tried to do is they tried to revamp the platform, like to make it like a crawling platform. So like that one was actually kind of like funny because it was the original AX10 style chassis. The only thing they changed was they put Wraith axles on it and then put the deadbolt body on it.
What? Oh, so
So
they would have had the OG style axles when they were new, right?
so like the one I have has the original OG round two-piece axial axle.
Oh, okay.
So like what was in the OG SCX10.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, I forgot
So
they didn't have AR60s. That's right.
no, they didn't have the AR60s back then. So after the Wraith came out, I think that's when they kind of vamped it, and they came out with the Deadbolt, which was based off the AX10, but they put in the Wraith axle to give it a little bit wider stance, and then they put more of like a car body on it instead of like a, you know, futuristic kind of like RC car body, which is what the Scorpion body is.
Right.
So, but no, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty stoked.
You know, I have something here that I should send you. I've got a Scorpion body. I think it was the Ridgecrest body they called it or something. It's like a SUV.
Yeah,
I got a brand new clear one here with decals, window masks, everything.
really.
Yeah, want it?
Yeah, I might have to do something with that.
Because then you can like, I don't know. I mean, like save it or use that one and save the one you got if it's in good condition. I mean, something. But I just figured that it's probably kind of a difficult thing to come by nowadays. So
Well, it's actually funny you say that because the cool thing is yours is it's uncut. So
I don't remember. It might be cut. Because I didn't get
okay.
it brand. I mean, I got it new from a guy, but I think he started to cut it out.
Well, I mean, okay, it's cut, but I mean, I'd have to see if there's body holes for it because on the Scorpion, the body holes are on the. I think it's still like a car. They're on the top, whereas, or are they on the side? It might be on the side. I don't know. I can't remember. It's vice versa because I remember I was talking to Todd Norton, and he's got one that he had from because he had a Ridge Crest, but he said the problem is he's already got the body hook post on the one side. So let me pull up the picture real quick because since I'm sitting here doing the show, I'm not going to run down and look at the. Yeah, so on the Scorpion, the body posts are on the side, and I think on the Ridge Crest, because it was a different body, like chassis setup, they were going through the hood and the trunk area.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll look at it. It's in a box behind me on the shelf. I'll dig it out, but that might be. I mean, I have no use for it, and you've kind of got like this thing going on here, so we'll add it to Adam's Museum of Crawler History.
Dude, I should start something like that. Do a virtual tour.
Might as well. I mean, there's some people that like, that are newer in the hobby probably don't even realize some of the, they're not aware of some of these models that you have still.
So, well, yeah. So, which I don't know if is a good thing or a bad thing. So I just zoomed in on the picture that I originally took when I got it to thank Brandon. It's the Proline hammers.
Weird. Never even heard of them.
They're a 2.2 like comp tire.
Oh wow.
So
That
Yep.
was kind of a weird thing seeing them come out with another pin style comp tire recently.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm
the
gonna have to
the
look.
Ibex. Have you seen those yet?
No.
They, I don't know if it's for people that are kind of like taking and making, like sporties out of Capras or what. Like I think that's kind of their market. But yeah, they have like a straight up full on comp crawler pin tire now, and they call it the Ibex. Neat looking tire.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Super
scroll
tall,
down.
skinny. Proline has some good stuff coming up too. I got that new Barracuda body that just came out. That thing's super sick.
Hmm.
Hopefully get to see some more pictures of that soon. I forgot to turn the fan
Oh
off in the
yeah,
shop. It's like a million
I see what you're
degrees in
talking
here
about
and I
now.
left it running. Oops.
No, it's okay. Yeah, the Ibex Ultra Comp 2.2. The only other thing I could think of is there are some people that are still trying to keep, the true rock crawling alive. So they might be actually doing I mean, I don't know if it's more popular East Coast or West Coast, but that might be why they're doing it.
Could be. I mean, it's it's cool. I mean, I don't really have the money to get into it, but I mean, just spread over so many different things, with work and everything else. But I mean, I mean, if I had the funds for something like that just for the hell of it, like I would for sure get a comp crawler just because I think it'd be fun to see what they can do.
Yep.
They are pretty crazy.
Huh. I wonder how scary this is. I was just real quickly, well, after I was looking up those tires, I just for like, S and giggles, I was like, let's just see if I can even find those Proline hammers. And I put them on, and I just typed in Proline 2.2 hammers, and these tires popped up. 1/10 crawler tire truck Proline 2.2 crawler tires for Axel SCX10, AX10 RC four-wheel drive Tamiya 4 pieces, 2680 from Wish.com.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's legit or not.
I, Wish is sketchy. I don't think I would trust like a $5 purchase to Wish. I don't think I'd want them to have my credit card info even.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like,
It's just sketchy, sketchy stuff. Like all of those sites are kind of weird, like Wish and Banggood, and there's all kinds of goofy ones I see popping up all over the place on Facebook.
yeah,
Watch, now that I mentioned it, within 3 feet of my phone, I'm gonna start seeing it again, popping up in my
yeah.
feed.
Oh, exactly. Um, but yeah, so I mean that's pretty much it. That's like I said, really all I got going on as far as like the weekend and stuff and like the new stuff. I mean, um, yeah. So just like as usual, collecting stuff, whether I need it or not.
Yeah. Oh, I got to drive the new Trail Runner. That was cool. I
Nice.
didn't drive
How'd
it.
you like that?
I didn't drive it a lot. It was rad. Well, I got to drive a couple things for the first time this weekend. So I got to drive my Tacoma for the first time, the IFS Tacoma that has the EPX kit on the back of it, and that thing was beastly. It was really funny because we are just out late afternoon driving and stuff, and like I the clearance issue with the skid and the arms and stuff. Like we were halfway through the course before I even like thought about it and was like, man, I like it was just a non-issue, like we stopped and we were kind of BSing for a minute, and I was like, you know what, I go, now that I think about it, this thing hasn't gotten hung up on anything. Like there's just it's been a non-issue. Like that IFS truck was so impressive, it worked so well. It was rad because I mean it's just you see people posting online like, oh, sucks for crawling, blah 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 blah, but honestly, dude, like that thing worked really freaking good. It was rad. And then the Trail Runner, I only drove just a little bit because I can't scratch it up yet because I need it for product photos and stuff, but I had just taken a couple shots with the overland trailer behind it and stuff. But one of our buddies, Jeremy Kim, got one, and he actually had gotten his before me, and he brought it out with the stock, 1.55 wheels with I can't remember the size tires. I think they're like a 3.85. But dude, he absolutely owned that course with that thing. He was doing lines that like people with big tires were struggling with. Like he, I mean, he just wheeled the crap out of that thing. It was so rad to watch, and I got a ton of video of it. So I'm really excited to get that posted up and kind of share that with everybody. But I mean, he really made that thing do some work. It was pretty awesome to see, and there was two different guys that had tiny tires, and both of them just did fantastically well. So it was really cool.
Nice. Sorry, I was taking a sip of water because, like
No,
you
it's
said, it's
fine.
like a million degree. It's a million degrees in here, so it's like
Well, I say a
so.
million. It's actually 76 in here, but for me, that's uncomfortable.
Uh, yeah, it is 80 degrees in here.
That's too hot. That's way too hot
There
for
it is. It's
inside.
too hot.
Yeah. Well, should we take a look at some of our questions? This.
Yeah, I got them right here. So ready to rock and roll whenever you're
I
ready.
am ready.
All right. So I know Andre Campos, aka Scale Metal Supply, wrote in twice. Oh no! Oh, here it is. Sorry. The second one that he did was a example. So the first question, or I guess, yeah, it's one question. He said, "What percentage of a build makes it a specific brand? Element, axial, RC four-wheel drive, dot dot dot." Like when asked what kind of truck is that, many of mine are bastards. And he said, "Here's an example." And it's a picture of one of his builds. It's an Element chassis, RC four-wheel drive leafs, and an axial skid.
Hmm.
So, um,
That's not an
I
easy
guess it's
question
kind
to
of like,
answer.
no, it's not, because like, I don't know. Let's, because I'm gonna apply it to like real world, like the real world trucks, because obviously when people are building, you know, the real, deal, they're not always using the same brand specific parts. Like take an example, my Chevy, the 94. The front axle is a Dana 60 out of a 79 F350. So it's a Ford axle. But I'm not going to call it a Ford truck because it's only got one part, that's Ford. So the majority of it is, Chevy. So I'm going to call it Chevy. Um, in that case, I mean, I think where it really gets hard, I think it's got to come down to, and this is just my opinion, not that it means anything, but like chassis, and I think the chassis platform basically will, in my opinion, is what's going to define the rig, because that's basically what you're starting with. So if it's, you're starting with an Element, then I would say, oh, it's my Element based, in this case, leaf sprung rig. So, because it's starting off with Element, and then there's some other parts that you've added into it. Or you can just start calling it Frankenstein.
Yeah, I guess I have kind of a bastardized rig that I just built, and that's that. It's a bomber cage with element drivetrain, so it's got element axles and element transmission, element links. So it's like, well, what do you call that? Do you say it's element based? Do you say it's still an axial? Like, what is it at that point? And I don't know if there's really a good answer or not. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if anyone
I don't.
really. I mean, not to sound like I'm like being. I don't know. I'm not trying to be like an ass or anything, but like, I, I don't know if enough people care about it necessarily to where they, put a lot of thought into what brand it is or what it's based on. Like, I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say? Like I most people probably don't get hung up on like what to call it, I guess is what you could say.
Well, I think the reason why he's asking this is because I mean, people have asked me this. I mean, they always ask you that. Like, you'll be out on trail, you'll be doing something, and unlike in the real world, like, okay, you see a Jeep coming down the trail, you're gonna be like, hey, your Jeep's cool. What are the build specs? Whereas like in the RC world, you could have a Proline Jeep Gladiator body on a TRX4. You could have it on a SCX-10-2. You can have it on a Enduro. So it's like you can't just see the body coming down and go, oh, that's cool, whatever. They always ask you, hey, what is that? Because I guess some people, like, if they like it, they want to see, like, hey, can I buy that? Can I go out to the store and get that? So I think that's why some people ask. I'm not saying that's on Andre's
Right. No, it's
situation,
a
but
totally legit question. I'm just like I think there's like I was saying, it's just tough to answer.
yeah, I think for me, I would start with, like, that's why I said I would start with the chassis, kind of like the heart of the rig, because
Right.
everything else comes off. Because everything else comes off of that. Because I mean, for instance, look at the Samurai. There's so many people in the wheeling world that start off with a Samurai. They ditch the stock axles, put full size axles underneath there from like a Toyota, or even like an old school F-150 that's got like a Dana 44 in the front and a 9-inch in the rear. You're not going to call it a Ford. You're still going to call it a Samurai, because like the heart of it started as a Samurai. So it's like, I don't know. That's the way I look at it. So I take
Sure.
like what your main, what you started off with, and then kind of go from there. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
because that's kind of a weird situation because you got like with a car, it's the manufacturer of like the body and the chassis and everything is all in one. With RC, you've got you know the brand of the chassis, but you can literally put any brand body on it. So I mean, it's really tough to kind of draw the same type of comparison because it's like you said, it's if there's a drift car that's got a LS in it and it's an import, it's not a Chevy now magically, it's still whatever import brand it started out as. It just has a Chevy power plant. So
exactly. So I don't know. That's just the way I would look at it. I'm hoping that kind of answers Andre's question, like, enough to be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But
sure,
like
yeah.
I said, at the end of the day, you just call it what you want. I mean, if you want to say, oh, it's my custom creation, it's a junkyard build because I used all these parts that I got laying around, or I just built something to suit the needs that I was looking for. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
that's how I would do it.
yeah, no, exactly.
So the next one is Kenny Good. I just want to say keep recording. Really digging listening to all the episodes. Well, thanks, Kenny.
Thanks,
Thank you for the
that's
support.
awesome.
So, Chris Trudeau, I'm about to tackle building the IFS kit to install on my SCX-10-2. Any build tips? This would be a question for you.
Just put it together and run it. It was actually a pretty fun build putting that front end together. So just like you usually would do, just make sure everything's nice and tight. And if you need to Loctite a couple things, do it. I had zero issues. Just put it together, put some grease on the gears, and man, that was it. Like it was like one of the smoothest, easiest things I think I've done.
Nice. Yeah, what's interesting is, I mean, I've seen it done before, but he's doing the IFS conversion on the axial, so I think he has to get that 3D printed part to adapt it.
Yeah, I saw one of those today. It actually looked, or not today, but this weekend. I mean, it looked really nice. It was Jeremy Kim, but he brought out his drift car project that we were talking about last episode. So I got to see it in
Oh, okay.
person. Yeah, really cool.
Nice. Also from Chris, he said this is more of a general comment about respecting popular crawling areas. If your rig can't complete a particular section or line, it doesn't mean to chip away at the line so you can. It means work on your rig and improve it so you can make the line. Not every rig is going to make every obstacle. One of our popular lines has been dumbed down for less capable rigs, and it's sad. Just generally crawling etiquette in general. My biggest peeve is littering, cigarette butts, and leaving the trash in general.
Oh
Pack it out
God,
if you
yeah.
pack it in.
I hate that.
Yeah, the only thing, and I guess maybe I'll probably get a little, what's the word? I guess flack from this. The only thing I see that's like a little that like doesn't really bother me, like I get it when you're going somewhere and you're going there because you specifically want to like conquer, like a challenging line, and then it's been completely filled in. it's kind of like going on trail. Like for instance, when we were up at Rubicon, when I first got there, and Elio goes, "Are we going to take your truck out on the trail?" Um, quickly, Greg Passmore goes, "Oh, I'd wait." He goes, "It's pretty gnarly in there right now." And so what happens is like you get the guys like in the side by sides or the smaller tire rigs going through, and they can't make it, so they start stacking rocks and filling in the low spots, and then they can get through, which makes a rig like mine easier to go through, and it's not as challenging. Does it take away some of the fun? I guess that's up for you to decide. For me, it was kind of cool because, I wasn't planning on pounding my truck through there, but at the same time, I wanted to enjoy what the trail was like. So it worked. I mean, but at the same time, I don't want to take my truck into something where I'm just pounding it through, just to say you did it. So I guess in the same thing with the crawler world is, you know, if I understand if you can't make it, I guess typically what I usually see more times than none is actually the opposite. Like you get to an event, and if you're not one of the first, like let's say there's 100 cars, if you're not one of the first 20, by the time you get to it, oh, it's almost impossible to do because it's so dug out. Because when people seem to not be able to get over it, it's skinny pedal down, and you just dig a rut, and it and that's typically what I see more than anything else. I mean, myself, and I even know when I've been on trail, even with like Elio, when we're like out in our little group at some of these events, if we see a bottleneck, we might throw a couple rocks in there to make it a little bit, more, I guess, easier to do, so it's not so challenging. And I've never really saw anything, like I said, wrong with that, because like in the real world, that's what you do. Like if you
Right.
can't make it, you're gonna stack rocks until you can get up over the thing, or pull out your sand ramps if you have them. So I guess, I mean, I can see both sides of it. I can see where that'd be frustrating, because like you're going, okay, I'm building this rig because I want it to just chew up these like comp style lines, and you take it out there, and all of a sudden you're like, what is this? There's like the comp line disappeared. So I can understand that. That's also the reason why, when at least the last time I was setting up courses for an event, I like to kind of set up so you have the best of both worlds. Like you'll see the eye for the hard line, and you're like, all right, this is like a pretty cool technical line. I think it's doable. Let's test it out. Oh yeah, it's doable, but not everybody's going to see that. So let's widen out so they can almost have like a bypass, just like they do on the Rubicon. If you don't think you can make it, through this like tight rock squeeze, they have a bypass to go around it to keep going. So if you want the easier trail, you just keep going. I kind of think that needs to be more brought into the RC, so that way you're giving people options when it's possible. I know not everybody can make a trail wide enough for essentially two rigs to go side by side down wherever they're going, but I think that would be an option, maybe even for Chris's, situation. Maybe they dig it back out or get it back to being challenging, and then maybe kind of like put like a bypass for it. So if another rig that can't do it also wants to enjoy the trail, they can bypass.
Yeah, we have. See, that's one of the things we did at the park, because we want to have. Because you have like kids, beginners, and then more seasoned people all sharing the same trail system. So we've incorporated a lot of different like bypasses and stuff like that that you can take in alternate lines. And we ran into a situation where some guys were moving stuff so that they could get their rigs through. And, when it's a park like that with designated lines and stuff, like, you don't just take it upon yourself after people have built it to just go ahead and change it and make it to where it suits you. That's not the way it works. What you do in this situation is, if you got to pick your car up, you pick it up. Otherwise, we encourage you to winch, tow strap, whatever, like you would in the real world. but you don't change the course just because the rocks and things like that we have there we've had to bring in, and so we've had to like lock them in with dirt and topsoil and stuff in between everything so don't just like roll away when you drive over them. So there's a lot of work that's gone into the trail system there to make sure that you're on stable footing when you're driving on this stuff. And if you just decide, oh, I'm just going to start digging this out and moving this, it's like, no, that's not cool. It's private property. On public land, I don't think on public land you should mess with anything, whether it's stacking rocks or chiseling stuff away or digging or anything like that. If you're at a park or national forest land or anything like that, like, you drive the terrain that your truck can handle, and that's it. You don't take it upon yourself to change it, because then you can start having people getting upset. I mean, we had a situation where a guy up here got yelled at because he keeps going to the same spot over and over and over again. There's a lot of dirt there, and it's starting to get pretty dug out from a lot of RC traffic. And this is a hiking trail at a city park, and it's starting to cause some erosion issues and stuff. So, public land, I'd say no, but if it's like your secret spot or your buddy's house or whatever, then, whatever. It's up to the people that built the course. But I wouldn't recommend altering the terrain at all. Stick to that whole tread lightly philosophy and don't mess with stuff. That's just kind of my advice and stance on it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I totally understand both sides of it.
Right.
I was just applying with the stuff that I see, like I said, when you're out on Rubicon, which, like I said, is a little different. It's not a privately owned trail. It is a state, trail, but at the same time, they're not. I mean, it's designed to be driven over.
Right.
So
it's a designated off-road area, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a
so
different
it's not,
story.
So when you're moving a rock here and there, it's not the guys aren't out there with the rotor hammers, trying
Yeah,
to chisel
yeah,
out.
no. It's
They're moving
expected. Yeah,
they're
to
moving
do
what
so.
they can actually physically move and calling it a day.
Right, yeah. Which in those situations when you're wheeling on that stuff, I mean, yeah, that's totally expected. I mean, you stack rocks and move
Yeah,
stuff.
like what you're saying with being that like Die Hard is like a man-made, built. It's a man-built obstacle, trail. You're not going to want to change all that because yes, it's been built to be what it is.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it should not be messed with. But yeah, because I guess I should have, kind of rephrased what I was saying. Like every time we've moved a couple rocks to kind of make the obstacle a bit easier, it's always been like we were out at like Bear River at Crawl for a Cure. We were trying,
Right,
we
yeah.
saw it.
Well, and it's little stuff there, you're not doing big changes and stuff. And I mean,
No.
yeah, totally, different kind of situation.
So, but yeah, so hopefully that helps Chris out with that. Darwin Bonk, how often do you rebuild a rig, and what do you include in a rebuild? Example: fresh grease, bearings, shock oil. Well, I don't know if I'm one of the best people to be asking this question, because a lot of my rigs I don't ever really rebuild. They kind of just get built and run, and that's it. Like if I know, like if I'm doing a change and I'm tearing something apart, at that time I'll kind of like check it out, see if it needs new grease or whatever, or like if the shocks stop working properly or to what I call working properly, then I'll check to make sure they got shock oil and all that stuff. Yeah, it's just I mean, some people, like you got your hardcore, like racer background guys, like a lot of the U4 guys, they are rebuilding their rigs once a week, because they'd race it, beat it up, break it, they tear it apart, make sure it's all perfect, because they're looking for that legal winning edge to possibly win the race. So they're going to want their rig working like a top tier all the time.
Yeah.
So if that means tearing it down once a week, tear it down once a week. Your average trail person is I'm not gonna exaggerate this. Your average person probably doesn't even touch their rig
Yeah, I think most people don't. I mean, like you said, with a race rig, it's a different story because I don't know. I mean, well, let me back up a little bit. So, like with all my stuff, more than anything, I clean them. Not necessarily rebuild, but I just go through and clean everything. And when you really do like a deep clean on an RC car, it's a great time to inspect for damage or things that are worn out so that you don't have something broke on the trail or a DNF like you would with racing and like with U4. So, I mean, with U4, the abuse those cars take, I mean, yeah, I could see, rebuilding it prior to every race, and that usually consists of a very thorough inspection, make sure everything's greased up, and, take a look at the shocks, see if they're leaking or need rebuilt. Shock oil gets very, very dirty much easier than most people realize, and so probably the one like thing that I rebuild more often than anything is just my suspension. Like I've got a pet peeve about leaky shocks, and luckily that's been kind of a thing of the past with the element rigs because they have awesome shocks that don't leak, so that's been kind of nice. But yeah, like you said, I mean, aside from that, just cleaning them and inspecting, that's really about as far as I go.
Which is pretty much all I do too. I mean, typically almost like after every run, I usually get back to the house. I take some air, kind of blow off a lot of like the dust and dirt to kind of see if I see anything that needs like any kind of attention. Then I usually throw it down, get out my Cow RC Moo Clean and spray it all down, let it sit for a little bit, air dry it off again, ready to go. That's typically all I do. I don't really go above and beyond. The only time I really get into like, oh, okay, this should have, you know, like I should repack the, the grease inside the diffs or whatever, is like if I'm opening it up to change something, like which I've done in the past. Like you get a rig, and let's say you get it ready to run, you're running it, and you're all like, oh, okay, I want to upgrade to overdrives in the front, or you want to change out from dog bones to actual CV axles. What I'll typically do then is I'll open it up, take it apart, make add more grease or whatever needs to be done, then add in the part that I'm doing. I don't, I rarely ever just take it out the way it is and put it back. That's when I typically do a once over.
Yeah.
So, and then like the bearing thing is, I only really change the bearings when I see that there's bad bearings. So like if I see something that's like super rusty and nasty, like if this rig's been around for a while, it's been in and out of water, that's when and I see it's like all rusty, I'll go, oh, okay, better change out some bearings. But otherwise, yeah,
I don't go through a lot of bearings, do you?
no,
Yeah,
I no.
same here. I hear about people, oh, bearings are garbage, or yeah, like I don't know. I'm either lucky or really easy on my stuff, or a combination of the two, because like I just typically don't have any problems with stuff. Like I'm just really fortunate that way.
Yeah, for me, it's like, I mean, I've had the occasional like, and this is like I said, this probably I noticed this more because like I said, I'd be more like it was more common for me to upgrade my older rigs because like I had this conversation with Todd Norton the other day. Back when I had like my original like the OG SCX10s, like you had to upgrade those. They did not come pretty built from the factory. So you were throwing better seasoned knuckles. You were getting rid of the plastic locker and putting in a spool. You were putting in, overdrive gears or hardened gears or whatever. Like, you were doing stuff to modify it to become a better rig. So that was when I'd start noticing things. Like I remember, like I was like, oh, I'm gonna get rid of the plastic wheels and I'm gonna go with some, aftermarket aluminum. And you take it off and then you're doing something and you notice like one of the bearings on the knuckle is like super rusty and you're like, oh well, I did run it through all that water and maybe I didn't clean it off well enough and that's why it's rusty. And you're like, it still spins, but if I have an extra bearing, I'll pop it out, put a new one on so it's not rusty. And I mean, that was like the only time I'd ever change a bearing. Otherwise, like I said, like you, I'm either super lucky or I'm just not doing it right, and I've never had to really change bearings like one blew out or seized up or anything.
Which is nice.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not complaining. I'm just, that's just my experience.
I kind of have a feeling like you and I kind of take care of our rigs the same.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, and like I said, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I mean, I just like I said, I don't like putting them away dirty. So like when I get back from a trail run, like I said, the first thing I do is blow it off, use the Cow RC products, clean it up, and put it back on. Then I put it on the shelf once it's all been dried. Um, I don't, like I said, it's very rare for me. I mean, like, yeah, there's times where I get back from a trip and it's late and I'll throw it, in the shop and just let it sit there. But before I actually put it up on the shelf, it'll get cleaned. I don't usually put it away dirty. I mean, I know there's some people that are like, I don't even wash it from the last trip. I just pull it out again and keep going.
Which there is kind of a cool. I mean, it is like the simplicity of that is kind of cool. Like you just drive it and have fun, and it doesn't take up any more of your time than just that, you know. But like I know with me, with having the equipment and stuff that we do here, like it all has to be kept pretty clean, you know, so I can't really have a lot of dust and dirt floating around because it can get under laminate and stuff and just make a mess. So for me, a large portion of not having dirty rigs is just because I need to keep the shop clean and a nice environment. So that's kind of part of what I'm cursed with. It'd be nice to just throw it on the shelf some days when I'm not feeling it, but that's not really the way it works, unfortunately, here.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. So the next question is Jeremy Joseph Olson. Since I saw etiquette mentioned, I have one. I was at a brick and mortar RC hobby shop today. Let's not say which shop, just call it RC Hobby Shop. A kid was in the store with an abortion of a build that had multiple different plugs in line for electronics. Example, the battery had a Dean's plug, another type on the wires from the battery to the ESC. This was one of many issues. After about 45 minutes, he talked him into a Hobby Wing ESC and offered to clean up the plugs and help install it. Then he said, "Oh, I can get that for $10 cheaper online. When I get it, I will be back for you to help me wire it up."
No.
Please, he said, "Please support your local brick and mortar hobby shop."
Some people really think
So,
that way, even grown ups.
oh no, oh well, okay. Being in the line of work that I'm in construction, I can't tell you how many times, like you deal with like two different kinds of clients. I have clients that are like, I don't want the hassle. You supply the lights. You supply the smoke detectors. You supply the faucets. You supply the little like, whatever it is, you supply the toilet. Whatever the object is that I'm installing, they want you to supply it. Okay? That's sometimes I'm okay with it. Lately, I've been more like I'll supply it as far as I'll go pick it up for you at the store or whatever, but you need to still like know what you want because I don't want that kind of like free reign to like pick like some sconce on the wall and you're like, no, I don't like that, But bottom line, what I'm getting at is I've had clients that are like, you go to the store and pick it all up. And then I give them the bill and they don't care. They don't squawk. They don't, nothing. Then I got other clients that are like, they want a breakdown because they want to know how much I'm charging for this, how much the part is, and this, that, and the other, because I've had them say it. Oh, I could find that, cheaper online. And I always go, okay, fine, then supply the part. You supply the part. I will still install. I mean, I'll still install it. But the bottom line is, you got to remember when these hobby shops put a price on something, okay, the name of the game is to make money. Yes, it's not to gouge the customer because the thing you want is you want that clientele to come back and spend more money. So if you rip them off, they're going to be like, I'm never coming back here again. It's outrageous. So it is a fine dance that any retail store does. Now, the issue with this one is, and I get it, it's a kid, but that's when I think that kind of, life lesson needs to be taught. Yes, you could purchase something online. Yes, it could be cheaper, but you also got to remember, like I said, which I go through all the time in my profession, if you supply the part, and there's an issue, you're dealing with any kind of warranty or returns or whatever it is. And there is no, that's not my issue. So in this case, yes, that kid could go buy the ESC online for, $15 cheaper, whatever. Great. But if that ESC has an issue, you can now not go to that hobby shop and say, look, I'm having an issue with this, you know, you need to fix it. Well, you supplied the part, so now that's on you to get it, you know, figure it out, whether that's get a hold of, in this case, Hobby Wing and file a warranty claim or whatever it is. Whereas a lot of these hobby shops, you buy the part from there, they're going to do their best to help you out to get you back up and running because they supplied the part.
Right.
So there's a give and take to some of this, so you got to remember that, yeah, you could be saving $15, but in the end, that could be a $15 headache that comes back and bites you in the butt.
Right. And what people don't understand is like there's a good deal on something, like a good price, and then there's something that is a good value. And a good value is different than the price, because when you buy something like an ESC from that shop and they offer to go in and clean it up, that is a good value. You are getting not just the product, you might be paying a little bit more for it, but they are helping you with the car and offering to fix some areas that need fixing. Now, if you're like, oh, I'll just, save $10 and buy it online, well, you get to go through the hassle of returning it to the manufacturer and dealing with all that. And at the end of the day, all your wiring still sucks and you have mismatched plugs and everything. Okay. And you've got to do it all yourself. I mean, it's a kid, so it's, like you said, that's a good teaching opportunity for that kid. But I've seen it happen at hobby stores before where, a guy will bring something in and, the person will go through and kind of, clean it up and fix it and everything. And like a lot of times you've just earned that customer for life. There are some customers though that just flat out do not care about value or anything like that and just want to buy it online. The flip side to that is that next time you are, if enough people are buying online and not supporting a local hobby shop, that local hobby shop's no longer going to be there. So if there's a track there or anything like that, that's gone now. And, the next time it's a Saturday and you break something and you wanted to go hit the trail on Sunday, well, you can go to your local hobby store and pick those parts up. That's part of the value of having that available to you and doing business with them. But if enough people only care about price and nothing else, well, guess what? That hobby shop's not around anymore next time you need something. And furthermore, you're kind of spitting in their face when you're like, oh, I can get it cheaper online. Like, that's pretty rude and inconsiderate. It's like, I don't know. It's the wrong thing. And some people, you're never going to get them to change. But it's also a good teaching opportunity for people too. And I think, especially in that kid's case, a lot of people just don't think of that sort of thing. Like, oh man, if I shop somewhere else and everybody does that too, then this place isn't around anymore when I need them.
Yeah, the other thing too, and like I said, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole and say, anybody's bad at like, quote unquote parenting or whatever. But like, especially a kid, I mean, he could call him a kid, and that's the unfortunate thing. We don't know, was he 12, 14, 16? I mean, there's some people that call kids in their early 20s, or, people in their early 20s kids.
Right.
So it's like, we don't really know, how old he was, so I can't say that. But 9 out of 10 times, they learn from somebody else. So clearly, they've seen their parents, they've seen a friend's parents, they've seen somebody of older, somebody has given that, has said that, oh, I can get that cheaper online. They don't just come up with that on their own. I mean, there are like they always say, the kids say the darndest things. There are some of the kids who like legitimately don't know and they just blurt out things, and they, like I said, if this is actually a younger kid who can just be like, oh, I can get that cheaper online.
Yeah, makes sense,
But bottom line, it's like I said, it's like we're saying, it's a teachable moment. It's a time to be like, and that's when the shop has the opportunity to say, well, that's fine, and yeah, we'll still install it for you, but that's when you kind of got to lay down those, that fine print,
Right. If
like,
something's wrong with it, don't bring it back. I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to warranty it for you. You can warranty it through the online retailer you bought it from. I mean, there's a lot of conversation that can take place there after that.
yeah, exactly. And the unfortunate thing with that too is it's like, you're a lot a lot of hobby shops, or actually a lot of retail stores, period, the money comes from selling products, especially on like a hobby shop, like, like them selling a set of tires or a motor, ESC, a remote, whatever it is. That's where they make their money because, they get the products from the wholesaler, and they get it for a little bit of a markdown price, so that way they can put the markup price to keep it what you would see online, so they can make some money, in return. When when you're shopping online, you're not dealing with somebody who's, really having to have all this, like overhead as far as like rent, employees, all this stuff. Typically, it's an office building, so they don't have to have a storefront, they don't have to have people coming in and out and all this stuff. It's a lot small, like sometimes it's a small operation, sometimes it's bigger, but you don't have the same stuff that goes into when you have, the hobby shop that you're physically at. But it still comes down to exactly what you said. If people get too accustomed to ordering online, you're just going to run out the small shops. And that is the one thing, and like I've said, I don't want to make this like a political thing, but that is the one thing I have noticed ever since this, the COVID stuff started, is it's really pushed that whole order everything online, because the stores are shut down, or you want to do social distancing, so you don't want to go into the store, so you're ordering online. And it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You're setting up, the next generation to rely solely on ordering online, and you're going to just eliminate the storefronts, and it's going to be a trickle effect, because it's not just going to be hobbies, it's going to be like anything.
Yeah, that's very true.
So it's just like, I don't know, it's a time that I kind of like am getting a little, kind of like nervous about, and as far as like that,
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a
issue.
lot changing. There's like everything that we know is changing.
Which is actually, like, I know it has nothing to do with RC, but I just have a quick question to ask you. Have you heard anything about, coin change, up in your area being hard to get?
Yes. Almost any place that I've been into, there's some sort of a shortage. So I see ones, fives, and tens that they need, and then a lot of places don't have change. Like, they don't have coins at all. I don't know what's going on. Then I saw some other posts today about all of a sudden, I guess there's people are moving towards like a cashless society or something. I don't know if that's people just reading too much into it. I mean, when the coin shortage makes sense, because when you are ordering online, like what you and I are talking about right now, you were taking physical currency out of circulation, because you're not at stores exchanging it and getting change back and spending that somewhere else. If everybody's in their home and they're ordering online and things like that, that physical currency isn't being circulated. So I don't know if it's conspiracy theory people like reading too deep into it, thinking we're going to go cashless so that everybody can be tracked as far as location and what they spend their money on. I don't know. But all I know is I have seen signs around talking about a shortage.
Well, see, I was just curious, because I was actually talking with Michelle about that before we did the show tonight, because we actually have friends asking us if we have small change laying around, like coins, and they want to give us the cash equivalent for it, but they want the small, change because they can't get it. And it's just kind of like, and it's one of those things. It's like, And it's like I don't want to like sound naive, but it's like, is this going to be the whole toilet paper incident all over
Right,
again?
right.
Everyone going to freak out and think that, oh my gosh, there's going to be no more toilet paper, so when we see it, we got to hoard it all. Like, is that what's going on?
My
Like,
granddad's coin collection just tripled in value.
see, and that's, you get what I'm saying? Like, see, so that's where
Right, right.
I'm like curious to see, like, it's just one of those things, like what we were talking about, like the actual physical transactions and like dealing with, like, your mom and pop, shops and stuff, like what's going on. And because the other reason why I kind of brought it up is it is interesting, because like for instance, there's a chain. I don't know if it's just a California thing or if it's in other states, but there's a drive-up coffee place called Dutch Brothers,
Right, yeah.
and they're very popular in California. I don't know how far south they
They're
go,
huge
but I
in
know.
Oregon and in parts of Washington. Like Oregon, there's, 2 to 3 in most decent sized cities.
Oh, okay. So, because I do know in California, the closest one for myself is not until you hit, like, I want to say, I think it's either out in the valley or getting closer to Sacramento. And then from Sacramento up, like going towards Chico and all that stuff, there's like in Sacramento area and up in Auburn, there's like, they're all over the place. But anyways, they were one of the first ones when all this stuff happened. Like, I pulled up and I had like my Stamp Rewards card, I had my cash ready because I knew like what the total is for the drink, and they're like, "Oh, we're not taking cash right now," and you're like,
What?
"What?" And it's like, "Oh, due to everything, we're trying to like keep the amount of like physical." Interaction down to a minimum. And I'm still sitting here thinking about it like, okay, I get it, money is supposed to be the dirtiest thing, but um you're using a credit card that's in your wallet or wherever you keep it. Okay, you're sliding it into a machine. Okay, for lack of a better term, that machine is now turning into like the village core, and everybody's cards going into it. So it's like you're really not solving any
Yeah, but
problems in
money's a
my.
lot more porous.
True.
So, I mean, it is going to have more germs than something like plastic that isn't as porous. But I don't know. I mean, I stuff like that I normally just don't really care about, or really give much thought to, just because, like, especially when it's a business like that handles food and drinks and stuff, like it kind of
True.
makes sense. But I don't know. There's other. I mean, I get, like, I've seen people post so far, even like talking about, this is legal currency and blah blah blah, and businesses have to take it. It's the law, and I mean it. I don't know if it's necessary for people to get that up in arms about. I feel like it's more just like everybody's kind of doing what they can to limit other people's exposure, and if that's truly what's going on, then cool, I'm on board, I guess.
Yeah, I guess really the only reason why I kind of like brought that up and was because it kind of, I guess, went to my last kind of like point to all that is, um, you know, what happens when now you got people, okay? And I'm not saying go out and do this, but there are some people, they don't want their significant others, they don't want, and kids don't want their parents knowing how much they're spending on stuff. So they use the cash because typically with the cash you don't get the paper receipt to come behind it, or the wife doesn't see your credit card bill, or so on and so forth. Um, so what's going to happen to all these people that like to splurge when they have cash? What are you going to do? You like that you're just, I think you're eliminating that, and in a way I think it's going to impact the hobby.
Yeah, I think so, because I mean, what, it's probably daily we see something on Facebook about some dude like, "Hey, what's the best way to hide stuff from your wife?" Like, I think all of us have seen multiple posts, a couple times a week, somebody asking that question, like, "How do I hide this?"
Yeah, and like I said, which we don't condone,
Right.
but like, I mean, people ask it, we're going to do our best to answer it.
Sure.
So
Side note, though,
But
before we move on to the next one, Dutch Brothers, are the people there where you go just like their employees, just super, super friendly?
they're all like that.
Dude, they have the best service of any coffee outfit that I've been to. Like, just super nice and polite, always upbeat and smiling and stuff. Like, there's only one other place I've been to, and there's a city near us called Marysville, and there's one Taco Bell there that I don't know if they pay their employees really well or not. It's a newer location, really nice store, but dude, it is like the nicest, friendliest employees of any fast food joint I've ever been to. You know, and like I always have had kind of like a soft spot in my heart for people who have service oriented jobs like that because they kind of get shit on a lot, you know? And so,
Yeah.
like, I always try to be friendly and stuff and tell them to have a good day, you know, because chances are, you know, 3 cars ago they got screamed at for, you know, an order getting wrong or something like that. And, you know, it just, but I just was curious if that was like just a local thing with Dutch Brothers, like the one I went to when I lived in Oregon, if it was just a fluke or if they were just all super, super friendly.
No, honestly, I think that's part of their. I want to say that's part of their company policy. Like you have to be like kind of like bubbly, friendly, energetic because like I used to always make the joke that you'd pull up to the window and they're almost hanging out the window into your car trying to get your like order and like talk to you to see like what's going on and they're always asking and
Yeah,
it's
it's
like it was always a
awesome.
joke. It was always a joke like, "Oh, calm down, stay inside the building. You don't need to climb it in the car with me." But like it is nice to see it. And honestly, like since we're still talking about that, I'm just gonna it's kind of like the other reason why I'm kind of like a big I guess tipper would be the best way to say it.
Right.
Like I believe in giving tips. Like typically, I mean, like I've always been that way. Is because you got to think about it. Like they're doing a service that like yes, you are going there and you're paying for that service, but at the same time, if they're taking the extra like effort to be like super like friendly or like they're just having an awesome attitude about it, it helps. It like shows incentive. Like, hey, you're doing a good job. Like, I mean, if there's one thing that just like really peeves me is I can't stand the people, especially when like you got like the big family or the big group of friends, and they're like standing in line because now that it's getting warmer. I mean, I'll probably see it more. Like we go to Cold Stones, and they bring in like 12 kids. They want all this, like they order, every single one of them's got a custom order, all this stuff. They get all the way to the end. Sir, your total's gonna be 35 something. Okay, and they hand them like 36 bucks, and you're like, oh, keep the change. Oh, a whopping 20 cents for making 12 ice
I
creams.
know,
Like
right?
that's I get it, that's their job, but I mean, come on, like like
Those aren't
they're
well
out.
paying jobs. And honestly, if you get good service, reward the person, you know? I mean, do somebody a
Exactly.
solid. I mean, just be a cool human being.
Oh yeah, and that's why like especially with like Dutch Brothers, it's kind of funny, and I don't know, like I said, if it's because up there it might be a different like way of doing things than like how I do things being from the Bay Area, but like I always find it funny like we get our drink and they go, okay, the total's gonna be da da da, and like you do the card and they go, you don't have to do this, but they ask us all the time. Like it asks you as part of the prompt, do you want to do a tip? You can do $1, $2, $3, or other. And I always say, oh, I do the $2 because we usually get two drinks. So I figure $1 a drink, it's
Yeah,
pretty
sure.
fair. They're making something,
Yeah,
and it's
it's
like,
probably 20% or so.
and it's like they always go, oh wow, thank you. Like it's like what people say no all the time because it's like, you actually like you seem generally shocked that like I said, $2. So it's like am I missing something here? Like, did the person behind me go, no?
Well, I mean, it could be one of those situations too where they're just super grateful that people are nice to them. I mean, like those jobs aren't fun. Like there was a time that I was in a McDonald's in Stanwood, and it was around breakfast time, and they were slammed. I mean, just people everywhere. And this poor girl, there was just one girl on the register trying to handle all this stuff and everything, and she's like trying to make everybody happy and stuff, and like I'm trying to order, and there was like two or three people that came up and interrupted, because they had whatever issue. And so like me not thinking how I said it exactly, like I think I kind of like scared her to death at first, because I was like, I said, hey, is your manager here? And she kind of looks at me like, her heart just kind of sank. And so she goes and gets her manager. And so I said, hey, I said, just so you know, this young lady here has been busting her ass the entire time that I've been standing here. She's been super friendly with everybody and has done a great job, has maintained her composure and still has a smile. So I just wanted to point out to you the excellent job that she's doing. And like they were so taken back, like, whoa, really? Okay. Like it's just people don't hear that stuff enough.
No, and see, and that's the thing I think, needs to be kind of like, I guess, reinserted into our, you
Values.
know, yeah, because like, I mean, nowadays, so many people, it's like, there's no incentive. It's almost like people expect things to be a certain way, and like if it doesn't go that way, they're like appalled. It's like no, like if somebody's doing something, like I think it goes both ways. If somebody's being flat out horrible and like I mean legitimately horrible, like you know there's a line out the door, they're taking their sweet time, getting your processing your order, or they're giving you attitude for no reason, whether that reason may be, oh, they're just pissed off because they can see the line going out to Timbuktu and they know, oh great, I got to deal with all this. That's still not like a reason to be a jerk. Like I think both ways it needs to be accounted for. It'd be like, hey, look, dude, be a little bit nicer, or ma'am, be a little nicer, kindness will go a long way. And the other thing too, if they're doing a good job, they're busting butt. They, like you're at a restaurant, they take your order, they don't even write it down, but they got everything perfect, and you're like, whoa, like this person takes pride in their work. Like that's pretty cool. Like just like give them a compliment, even just saying, hey, good job. Like
Right.
it goes a good way.
Yeah,
So,
I'm a huge fan of positive reinforcement. Huge fan
oh
of
yeah.
it. It's kind of funny sitting here listening to us. Like, dude, you and I are fully just gonna turn into those like grouchy old men that ain't nobody got the values that that we had back when like because it's already happening. Like we see like just how disconnected everything is now, and I mean there's still, I saw just this week a couple instances where people are just blowing up a brand online because something didn't go their way and they didn't reach out to the brand to make it right. And, just the typical BS. And it's like, well, screw it. I don't have to see them face to face. I'm going to say whatever I want. It's like there's that disconnect. And I think that we're lacking that old fashioned morals and values that you and I were taught when we were kids, and that's kind of just something that's slowly disappearing as people kind of withdraw into themselves with everything being online and automated now.
Well, because what it comes down to is nobody has to deal with the repercussions anymore. That's the problem. It's there's no repercussions for anything. You
Yeah.
know, it's if somebody, like, I mean, I do it just because I like to feel like, in the end I've followed my quote unquote moral compass. Like, like when I was younger, most kids, they never want to admit they're wrong. They never want to be like wrong about anything. They want everything right. They want it to be the way they want it, everything. So it's like, you always like deny, deny, deny. It's I don't know what age it was, but at one point I hit an age where I was like, I started like, I just would own up to my mistakes. No, you know what? That's my mistake. Okay, I screwed up. I didn't realize, because when you realize that you've screwed up and you realize that it's a human thing. Everybody has mistakes, and you can, that's a self-teaching point, and move on. It's not the end of the world. And I think nowadays the problem is everybody's so worried about being right and not being wrong,
Yeah.
they can never be like, oh, I'm sorry. And it's funny you brought up the thing about blasting people online, because I'm not going to bring up any names, but I've witnessed it numerous times, and there's so many times I've wanted to be like that guy to poke the bear. Like when they make a post like they deliberately are not going with this company, and exactly what company they're talking about because they drop hints and they go, well, because they couldn't answer the email and they couldn't get back to me in a manly time, or, I'm gonna go with, said company for this product. And then 3 weeks go by and they're now bitching about that company because they're taking their sweet time. They didn't get it done in a manageable time and this, that, and the other. I almost want to be like, so are you upset you went with this company, or do you wish you now would have went with the original company you should have went with? Like, where are you at with this? Because it looks like the same thing all over again and you're going to get nowhere.
Right.
So it's just like, and there's so many times I've wanted to say that and point it out, but it's like, I'm not going to, I don't know. I just don't believe in the whole Facebook war. That's just not my
Oh, it's so
style.
stupid. Like, we finally got rid of this dude that was at our local drag scene, and he was just Mr. Facebook warrior and just all over everything. And man, oh man, like, the drag racing crowd, I didn't think it was possible, like, but the racing crowd's a little tense. There's some pettiness. The scale crawler thing, up until drag racing, has been like the king of petty and the king of, online dickheads. But now it's drag racing. The drag racing has gotten to the point where it's just people are just flat out belligerent online and just idiots. It's getting so bad. I mean, the one that I was kind of referring to is a dude upset that his wheels showed up from J Concepts, these chrome plated wheels, and they were, it's chrome plated plastic. It's vacuum plating. It's a very thin film to begin with, and it's not known. I mean, almost everybody knows this chrome plated plastic, even on toys when you were a kid. The shit doesn't hold up. Like, it rubs off or flakes off eventually. It's like,
Mm.
those are like your Shelf Queen wheels or something. Like, didn't even contact J Concepts or anything like that. Just lit them up, and oh, they had one chance to keep me as a customer, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, you can take your $24 and shove it up your ass. Like, honestly, they don't care about you after this. I mean, if you would have, like, reached out to them to make it right, but instead you tried to do this big moral tough guy stance in front of everybody on Facebook and just get all this attention, and you're seeking validation from everybody else, oh yeah, that is bullshit, they need to be held accountable, it's like, I think a lot of it is just the drag racing scene. There's a lot of new people that don't understand RC and they don't know how to act, and it's sucking the fun right out of it already. It's terrible to see. I mean, what, Tim Smith parted ways with NPRC already because he just got tired of the verbal beatings he would take, almost daily from people. I mean, I understand.
Well, yeah, nobody wants to do that. I mean, it's a hobby, for crying out loud, and that's the part. It's like, you know, last week when I did the shout out, and I feel really bad because I forget his name right now, but the one about the Hearst, and he was totally like, he's like, come on, they're toy cars,
Yeah, that guy was rad.
It's like, see, that's the way things need to be handled, because it's like, and I get it, your stuff's gonna get the best of you. There's times, but that's when you step back and say, look, I'm sorry, I screwed up. Because honestly, and like I said, maybe this is just the way I view it. If you're gonna be a big douche about something, and then you apologize and admit that you were being a douche, that speaks more than trying to sweep it under the rug or pretend that you were never in the wrong and that everybody else was wrong, because then you're just piling on the issue
Oh
instead
yeah.
of, so that's my whole thing. Like I said, you could be like I said, you could be the biggest, douche in the world, but if you come out at the end and say, oh look, I'm sorry, shouldn't have acted that way, I apologize, that speaks, volumes.
Oh yeah,
It's the people.
absolutely.
It's the people that just continue to say, "Nope, you were wrong," da 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 da, and then you come up with another excuse. And it's kind of like what you said. It's like they want validation from everybody else. I don't understand. Like, maybe this is harsh to say. It's like, did everybody miss a couple hugs when they were little? Because it's like everybody wants validation now. Everybody wants somebody on their side.
Yeah, it's crazy. I really don't understand that. I mean, I don't know. I don't think us talking about it really fixes anything. I mean,
Oh no.
we would like to think it does, obviously. In my book, if somebody's listening to this right now and they've kind of been like, hey, you know what, I didn't think of it that way, or you know what, I probably should have just contacted a manufacturer first before freaking out on Facebook. Like, they're toy cars. They're not, you don't rely on it to earn a living by driving it to work every day. You know, it's a toy car. I mean, they're for fun. This is a fun thing. That's why it's a hobby. And
Well,
if we can get just even a couple people turned around from that type of behavior, then cool. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's guys I've had blowouts with, like, in person or online, and I see them, you know, like later on, and then they try to be like, you know, oh, hey, you know, I didn't mean nothing by it, blah, 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 I was having a rough day. Like, 9 times out of 10, we end up being cool with it afterwards, but it usually takes that, like, personal confrontation to put it out all on the table to really end up squashing something. But the safety net of the internet is just not helping anybody right now. You know, it's like
no, not at
tensions
all.
are already high, and like, I mean, see, I saw just the other day 2 dudes talking about going to blows and beating each other's ass over toy cars, dude. It was unreal.
Well, it's like I have an actual positive story that I want to share. I'm only not going to use the individual's name. They are a listener of our show. If they give us the permission to use it, because I know this is one of those things. It's like spur of the moment. We're not really like, it wasn't like planned, so I didn't have this ready ahead of time. But the example and the story I'm going to go with is he is a gentleman who uses MKS products. And he, got a hold of me and said, "Hey, look, I know you're really, tight with MKS, and you talk, to Thomas and all that stuff a lot." He goes, "I have a question. My servos." He goes, "I got two of the same servos, and I put them in two different cars. One car's got this, and one car's got that, per your recommendation, and the one is not working the way the other one does, doing two different things." And I'm going, interesting. So I said, "Can you, show me a video, or can you kind of tell me what it's doing so I can kind of help diagnose, like, oh, no, you have this wrong, or, oh, okay, what's the problem?"
Right.
Anyways, he goes through, he actually takes his time, makes a video, shows me what's going on, and I said, wow, I've never seen one do that. I said, I'm not going to speak for Thomas and MKS, but I'm going to say I don't think that is the way the servo is supposed to work. So I think your best bet is get a hold of Thomas and MKS, and I'm sure he'll help you resolve the issue.
Right.
And he said, okay, cool, thanks. He could have easily got on Facebook and said, this company is a joke. They sent me out products. They don't work the way they're supposed to work. And then one of their drivers said to do this, and I'm copying what they said, and now that's, and like totally could have just blown it out of proportion.
Right.
But they handled it in what I call the respectable way. You're handling it, and from my understanding, it's getting resolved, because I've been kind of like the three-way, and I've been like, or the middleman.
Sure.
And I was, I'm talking to Thomas, and Thomas is like, oh yeah, I found the email. Sorry, I haven't gotten back to him. It's been hectic. I sent him out, all the information to do a warranty claim. So it's like, cool. So it's been handled. See, everything was handled.
Yeah.
It's not a big old deal. And yes, we get it. It's a frustrating thing. You have to wait time. Now there's time. You got to wait for another product to show up. But in the end, it's going to work.
You got taken care of, and you feel good about spending your money with those people because MKS did take care of you.
Yeah. But like I said, there's proper times for certain things. Now, and I know we're kind of like on a weird topic of like intermingling what's going on with RC in real life and
yeah, that's
together,
okay.
and like whatever, but it's kind of like the issue I'm having with the company Quadratech. We placed a big order for a bunch of parts for Michelle's Jeep, and knowingly 2 parts were considered back ordered. One was definitely back ordered. The other one said it was ready to ship out in like 2 weeks. Do you still want to place the order? We said, sure, not a problem. Place the order. Well, the one product turned into, okay, it wasn't ready to ship from them. They turned it into a direct from supplier item, meaning that the item we were ordering was going to come directly from that manufacturer instead of through Quadratech. So we got charged for it. We're going on like 2.5 months. I can't get anyone on the phone. I can't get anyone to return an email. I, I can't get any answers on why we were charged, and we have never seen any kind of shipping information, any nothing. And it's like, I'm at the point where it's like, what do you do? I could totally be online making a stink about it, but is it going to solve my issue? No. If I can't get them to answer the phone or the email, then it's pretty much done. Like, lick my wounds and move on. It's like bad mouthing them. I mean, I will say I probably will never order anything from them again, but that's between me and them. That's not for the whole world to know.
Right, exactly.
So,
It,
but
yeah, I don't know. There's it's weird because the more things start to kind of deteriorate, which I think is pretty safe to say that things in this country are deteriorating right now. I just
mhm.
feel like there's less of a place for just kind of good old boys like you and me, you know?
Well, see, and that's the way I've always viewed, like, for instance, the RC hobby. It's like that's always been my outlet to go hang out with my RC people. I know when I'm out on the trail, I'm not going to talk to them about politics. I'm not going to talk to them about the world's problems. I'm not going to talk to them about, you know, the horrible experience I just had at the gas station trying to buy a rock star. Like, like that's no, you're out there having fun, enjoying the trail, enjoying the RC, like that's like that's the escape that I'm using. Yes, of course, my really close friends in the hobby, yeah, we talk about all that stuff because we know each other on a little bit more personable, level. But like when I'm out on trail, I'm not going to be sitting there on my soapbox, doing this, that, and the next thing. It's like, no, I came here to do one thing. It's like, and if you're going to turn it into that, you've now taken away the joy for me of
Yeah.
what the hobby is.
Which is what happens daily on Facebook, and so I don't know. Like for me, I really limit my involvement on Facebook for that reason. Just because like I don't want to hear about Trump on an Element page or something. You know what I mean? Like it's just that's your release. That's your happy time to get away from everything. That's your time to like be with your buddies and go, man, did you just see that? Did you see what that thing just did? I mean, like, and just enjoy yourself in like one of the most simple and satisfying ways of just going out and driving your truck, and that's the only thing you're thinking about. And like Saturday evening we did an awesome run, just me and two other buddies, and we just went out and hit the trail, and we it was really cool, like photography wise, because we started when it was daylight and finished up when it was like pitch black out, and it was rad. It was the best time, and it was like the very essence of why we do this. And it
Mm.
was just, I don't know, I can't even begin to tell you how much I needed this last weekend. Like I needed that giddy, excited feeling. Like it was the closest I've felt happiness level wise to the feeling I had rolling into Axial Fest for the first time. Because we had a product booth there and we gave away raffle prizes. And granted, people have masks and they're social distancing and stuff. And, we encouraged everybody to be kind of spread out on the trail and not bunch up and crowd the person in front of you, as far as like people wise or vehicle wise. Give them some room to work around and drive their rig. Don't crawl up their back bumper. And there is kind of an etiquette to follow and stuff. And it was just, dude, it was such a good time. I mean, I can't even begin to stress how much I needed that and how much fun it was. I mean, it was just the perfect reminder of why we do what we did. And I only got on Facebook at night to do photo dumps, and that was it. And it was a great time. And it's just, I don't know. I think if you're starting to feel weird or cooped up or some kind of anxiety or something, go hit the trail. Do it by yourself, even. Like just take that time to kind of remind yourself why you got into the hobby in the first place, and really go out and enjoy yourself and just unplug from Facebook and everything and just enjoy the hobby for what it is.
Oh, exactly. And, you know, I think this is a perfect way to include the very last question because I don't want Ed to think we ignored him. But Ed Wagner had a question, and his was, "What is the topic?" To answer you, well,
Dutch Brothers, that was our topic.
that was our topic.
Everything you never wanted to know about Dutch Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's just my whole thing. And like I said, we're just two guys, doing this show, to entertain people. Hopefully, it's your outlet. You know, we're not like uh, I saw it earlier on something else I was watching. The best way I could describe it is, you got to remember that when people do something, especially like in entertainment, like, kind of like what we're doing, you're asking us for our opinions. Do our opinions mean anything to anybody else but ourselves? No.
I don't
But if
even think
somebody
my
wants,
opinion matters to me, even.
I mean, I mean, if that's what you want to listen to, if you want to listen to somebody else's opinion, by all means. I mean, a lot of people do it. That's why you turn on the news. That's why you follow certain bands. That's why you follow certain influencers. That's why, it's just like the list goes on. But at the end of the day, you got to remember it's just your opinion, and you need to accept that if somebody else doesn't like it, doesn't make one or the other right or wrong. You just agree to disagree, and end of story.
Yeah, and you can still be friends afterwards. You don't have to hate each other because you don't agree on the same thing. Like, I mean, I don't know. There's family members and even my own son at times that I don't agree with, but it doesn't affect us in any way, shape, or form. Like, the there are some people, and I have ran into this situation before, where they'll say something and it's just so far out in left field that you're like, dude, I wish I never heard that because I'm never going to be able to look at you the same again. Like, there are some things like that when you have like this deep, like, personal conflict with the way somebody feels about something. That's kind of a different story, but like, there's nothing within this hobby that should be causing that amount of tension, you know? And like, one of the things, especially because I had brought up like how quickly the fun factor of drag racing's deteriorating. It's
Mm-hmm.
like drag racing would be sick right now if there was no Facebook. It would be rad. But like the call outs and the trash talking and, oh, I can't wait for this thing to whoop up on a bunch of DR, like, it's so corny and so cheesy. Like, yeah, that works with like no prep and street outlaws where, you know, they've got $70,000 plus rigs that they're racing. Your $350 Traxxas drag car that you made, like, it's just laughable. Like, I really, really hope that that part of it just dies and goes away, because you don't have that in normal, like, off-road RC racing or anything like that. Like, it doesn't need the drama to be interesting. Like, none of RC needs the drama to be interesting at all. It should be interesting because of the very nature of what it is. So I really hope that that's a trend that ends up going away sooner than later.
Yeah. Unfortunately, with the way everything's going, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but, one can hope. I mean, little like fun fact, and then I know we need to start wrapping this up. Like, that's honestly the reason why it took me forever. Like, if like people that have known me for how long I've been in the RC industry, I did not get on Facebook until like 2014,
Oh, wow.
maybe
Check,
15,
check you out.
because when I first got into this, you were on the forum. You were on rccrawler.com. You were doing like a thread, and you were asking people for advice, and people, I mean, it's kind of like how Facebook is, but like the culture was a little bit different.
Was it less
So
vicious?
it was less vicious. There were some people that were that were brutal. I mean, don't get me wrong. It still happened back then, but it was like, for some reason, the forum culture is way different than the Facebook culture. The Facebook culture is like, I don't know what it is, but it's just like 24/7. You know, over the top.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like I watched the demise of the forum, and everything started moving over to Facebook. Like I remember all the time, Ilya used to tell me, "Oh, dude, did you see this?" And I say, "See what?" And he goes, "Oh, I posted this." And I go, "I didn't see it. It's not on any of the threads. Where'd you make the thread? Is it under this? Is it under that?" And he goes, "Are you still talking about RC Crawler, dude? Nobody uses that anymore. We're all on Facebook." And it's like, dude, it's like that's not my thing. Like I don't really care for it. It's like, it's like I tried to hang on to the forum stuff as long as possible, and then eventually I said, all right, fine, I'll make a I'll make a Facebook, but that's why mine is strictly RC related. I mean, I tell my family straight up, like like my brothers have tried to add me, my parents have tried to add me, people from high school find me and try to add me, and I don't. They just sit in the friend request because I said, look, this is RC only. I don't talk anything else on here other than RC.
Yeah. Which is
So,
great. I think that's a super smart idea. I mean, I think people give way too much of themselves away on Facebook. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's some things that you say and do on Facebook that nobody is going to look at you the same ever again.
mm-hmm.
Like talking about relationship drama or how much you hate your job or this politician sucks or whatever. It's you give too much of yourself away, and then you don't have a whole lot of yourself left that you can keep private and just for you. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't air my laundry on Facebook because I don't want anyone. I prefer people to not know about me and not know about my life and what goes on in my life and stuff, And like, I used to, I stopped doing it, but I used to have like situations where I would vent because most of my Facebook friends, I think it was like under 500, and it was mostly like people I'd known a long time or people that I knew from like the industry that were other business owners and stuff. But as things have grown and progressed, like I don't even do that anymore. Like I just keep all that for me, and that's it. I very rarely ever talk about anything personal other than just RC stuff on there, or I'll post something to make somebody laugh or whatever, but that's about it. I mean, it's just there's a lot of peace of mind that comes with being a private person, and not
Mm-hmm.
everybody wants to hear about all your grievances. And a lot of times people form opinions of you without even really knowing you based on what you've put on Facebook. I mean, there was a local racer up here that the guy was just an ass on Facebook, just such an asshole. But in real life, the dude was actually fine. He just came across like a total dick on Facebook, but he was actually really pleasant in person. And, it's like that stuff follows you around, and that's something you need to think about and be made aware of, especially, circling back to when we were talking about brand bashing and stuff. It's like, dude, all these people, like, there's people known throughout people that work in the industry as like troublemakers, and it's like there's conversations that are had like, dude, stay away from this guy, he doesn't pay, or this guy raises hell, you're really gambling with your reputation if you even have this person as a customer. Like, there's a lot of dialogue that goes on, in private about people and the way that they behave online, and whether they're trolls or not or whatever. And I don't know. I mean, I've said it before. I think it'd be rad if more of the group moderators and stuff just hit that button to remove them. Just get rid of the people that are cancerous and try and maintain the positive energy of it for the rest of the group. It's not worth trying to be fair or accommodate one person that's a dickhead at the sacrifice of everybody else's happiness or pleasure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, like I said, I know I always try to, I don't know, end on a positive note, but like, I'm sorry if we went down like the dark rabbit hole. Didn't really have a direction for this episode, so we just kind of like, you know,
Talked about what was on our
just,
minds.
yeah,
And
just
Dutch
kind of went,
Brothers.
and yeah, and Dutch Brothers. So, and I just want to say that if you've never had an opportunity to go to Dutch Brothers and you do have a Dutch Brothers near you, or you're traveling somewhere and you see a Dutch Brothers, make sure to stop in.
Yeah, very, very friendly people. Super, super
You
cool.
will you will not regret it at all.
No, and it's funny. I mean, it's like a simple moment like that where you have like that really friendly exchange that can completely change your day. And, God bless the people that go out of their way to do that and make others happy. Definitely something we need
Exactly.
more of.
So I think with that being said, it's safe to say episode 54 is a wrap.
Yep, it's a wrap. Well, thank you guys for listening to us. I hope you had a fun and safe 4th of July. Hopefully, you didn't burn down too much around you and you had some fun with family and the
Yeah,
people that matter. So,
exactly.
yeah, until next time, guys, take it
We'll see
easy.
you next week.